Welcome to West Country Wanderings. Today it's a canal one, not a railway one, but here at a railway station. I've just caught the train for home. We're actually at Bromsgrove in Worcestershire, but we've come to the canal. We're going to go down to the Worcester to Birmingham Canal and to have a look at a flight of locks. A very, very special flight of locks, this one. There's some 30 locks. It's the famous Tardebigge locks, and it's the biggest set of locks in the United Kingdom. While I'm here at Bromsgrove, just tell you a little bit about the station here. In the 1960s, this station was heavily rationalised. Before that, of course, in the steam era, it was used a bit further down there. There's a place called Stokeworks, very famous, where there were steam engines stored as bankers, and they would be used to help pull up the locomotives up the Lickey incline, the steepest incline in the United Kingdom, heading up to Birmingham, hence why there's also a steep incline on the canal here as well. Familiar tale in the 1960s, a lot of that was cut back. In fact, Bromsgrove was reduced to just a single platform, just one platform, and it just had like one coach trains trundling between here and Birmingham New Street. In the 1980s, I believe it was, an extra platform was added and it was lengthened. And that's part of when the West Midland Passenger Transport Executive was looking after this area. Happy to report, if you're unaware and not familiar with this part of the world, is that some 7 years ago now, this area, the station in fact, and the area, became electrified. So there's wires over my head. Electrification happened, and the station was completely rebuilt with a new building down that end, and 4 platforms are now in use here, which is great. It's the terminus for what's known as the cross-city lines, so we have electric trains going to Lichfield in Staffordshire, which cuts right through the heart of the West Midlands. I think the service is every 25 minutes. I'll put in the details below, but it's certainly very frequent and pretty fast, very convenient mode of transport here in Worcestershire to get to other parts of the West Midlands. It lies on the main Bristol to Birmingham line. Yes, that's the one that was closed when that bridge was put in at Stonehouse across the canal. But obviously the line is now running again. It's a very, very busy line, both for passengers and for freight. So the canal itself, the Worcester Birmingham, is about a 30-minute walk from Bromsgrove railway station. This narrow country road, I just noticed a sign there says we're coming into a village or hamlet called Finstall, also forms part of the Monarch Way, which you come across many times when we're doing the Cotswold Way. Of course, it seems to crisscross all over Gloucestershire, Warwickshire and Worcestershire. And Bromsgrove itself is about 25 miles south of the city of Birmingham and about 10 or 12 miles north of the city of Worcester. Now, at this point on the route between the railway station and Bromsgrove, the canal, I have a choice. I can continue following the road. There's also a footpath through, just turning off Lower Gambolds Lane. It goes down past this farm here. Knowing what fields are like at the moment, my experiencing walking along the Stroudwater Canal by the M5 and the fields and farms there, I think I'm going to stick with the tarmac because it took me ages to clean my boots and get them into a usable state again. So there isn't much difference in terms of length of distance. Obviously you don't see traffic that way, but you're going to see a lot of mud because of the weather we've had. So I'm going to stick with this tarmac. Also says we're about 5 miles from the town of Redditch. So, hi Roy, hope you're okay, keeping okay. And fellow YouTuber there, Roy Edwards, he lives in the Redditch area. Check him out, a great channel, content, kind of the similar stuff that I did, exploring areas and that. So we're going to continue here, heading down towards the Worcester and Birmingham Canal. That was the first sign saying Tardebigge, and we're heading down this Upper Gambolds Lane, which is running parallel to this large, looks like a dairy farm in front of me. There's quite light traffic here, just hopefully there's no tractors because it is quite narrow. That's usually a problem with lanes such as these. Tardebigge is actually further on that way. And I don't know if we're going to have time to explore the village, but Tardebigge is located at the top lock. I'm going to be joining the canal, the middle lock. I've got some coffee with me and some sandwiches. So I might have a sandwich and some coffee. It's a very cold day. Sit down by the canal, gather my thoughts, and then walk up to the top lock and tell you the history about the locks, particularly that top lock, and then walk back down and if time, come back to where I've started, then on down to Stoke Pound, which is the lowest point at the bottom flight of those 30 locks. Quite tricky walking over that bridge back there. A lot of ice on the ground, so I'm having to tread carefully at the moment. We're going up an incline, and then I'm thinking once I've got to the top of this incline I should be able to see the canal. That's the theory anyway, according to the map on my app, the older OS map app. But yeah, so hopefully we're doing a piece to camera by the canal very soon. So here we are beside the Worcester to Birmingham Canal. One of the big users of this canal was Cadbury's. In fact, it wasn't built specifically for Cadbury's. Cadbury's, of course, have got their big factory still going, now owned by an American company. Well, I won't go there. At Bourneville, the south of Birmingham. They've also had, I'm not sure if it's still running, a large factory at Blackpool. That's not the one up there. That's Blackpool, P-O-L-E, not the one up north. We're talking west of England, at Worcester. Not sure if that's still going on. There was another one at Frampton-on-Severn. And so this canal connected up, obviously, to the River Severn, and then obviously then down to Gloucester, and thence to the Gloucester Canal to their other factory at Frampton-on-Severn there. That's now long gone. But we'll probably cover that at a future episode when we're going to be doing the Gloucester Canal. Anyway, that's not where we are today. We're here on the Worcester to Birmingham Canal, and actually we're at the midpoint between the Tardebigge locks. I'm not sure what number lock this is right to me. Of course, you can see behind me all of the other locks that make up the sequence, 30 locks in total. What I'm going to be doing now is, I've just had a coffee to warm me up. It's a chilly day, but it's beautiful for photography, so it's great. Walking up to the top lock, which is near the village of Tardebigge. There's also a tunnel there and a reservoir, and also near that, in the next lock down, there is a steam engine pumping house. So we're going to have a look, see what remains of that as well. But the story of the top lock is really, really interesting. So this lock behind me is lock number 42. The top lock is numbered 58, and that's where we're heading now. So if you can do the maths, got 16 more locks to go till we get to the summit here on the Worcester to Birmingham Canal. Now there is a YouTuber called Cruising the Cut. His actual name was David Johns. He used to be an ITV news journalist, gave up that lifestyle about 6 or 7 years ago now. He's got a cracking YouTube channel called Cruising the Cut. The reason I mention his channel, one, if you're interested in canals and you haven't already discovered him, I'm sure you have if you're really into canals. It's a brilliant channel. Also, a few years ago, he made the trip into Birmingham and was concerned about well, some of the suburbs have got a bit of a reputation going into there. And I think he's got a relative that lives in Worcestershire, and he was daunted by the fact he didn't want to come through these 30 flights of lock here at Tardebigge, because he'd already, the previous day, gone up 23 locks, or down 23 locks to get into Birmingham. That would have been down into Birmingham, and from Gas Street Basin, which is where this canal starts. He didn't want to do it all again because he's a single-handed narrowboater, because it is very, very tiring if you're doing it on your own. It involves a lot of physical work. Now, one of the things I like to do on my channel is take photographs as well as video. In fact, I enjoy taking photographs more than I do in doing videography, because with videography, Well, there is kind of a bit more hassle in terms of the sound, setting up the shot, more difficult, and sometimes it's just nice to just go around with a camera, no microphone and kind of no tripod, just shoot from the hip and just take photographs. I do enjoy that, particularly taking shots through the viewfinder rather than an LCD screen, which is what you tend to do when you're doing video. But mainly, obviously, the videos are about the videos and me telling you about places I've been to and some of the amazing scenery that we have in the West Country and the West Midlands, and also to tell you a little bit about the photographic process, because and everybody pretty much these days has a camera in their pockets. They have a mobile phone in their pocket. It's easy for anyone to do that, but sometimes you can actually take too many photographs, and it's just sometimes just looking at the ones that you really think are going to be worthwhile, worth taking. And I'm just looking at behind me, and I think an opportunity has presented itself with the composition behind me to take a photograph. So we'll go and have a closer look. There's two main reasons why I love photography. One is that it encourages your eye to see things in a different way. You can actually go out for a walk and just walk past a beautiful canal like this in the lovely Worcestershire countryside on a nice day like we are today. But it's about training the eye to look for the composition. Now, the other thing I love about photography is the permanence. You're capturing something in a unique time frame, and that time frame will never ever be repeated. So here we are today. What is today? Just looking at the date, I think it's the 12th of January. So here on the 12th of January in 2022, and it's 12:15, quarter past midday. This time will only come around once, and this is a unique position now, this time frame, for me to take a photograph of that bridge with that reflection in the canal on this beautiful day. It's never going to happen again. If you come back tomorrow, it won't look exactly the same. It may look very, very similar, but it won't look exactly the same. In fact, tomorrow it'll probably be cloudy, so there's that. But there's little aspects of it. There'll be like leaves in a different place, bits of branches will be in a different place. The sun will be in a different place because we'll be a day further on, closer to the summer. So everything changes and nothing is ever the same twice. And that's what I really love about photography. It's capturing the image, capturing that moment in time. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I still think that's what really, really drives me to take photographs, knowing that they are hopefully going to be around forever to pass down for future generations. And they are indeed historical documents. The other thing to mention about coming to canals is mental health, and canals do vary. Now, when I did the Stroud Water Walk on Sunday, we also had a beautiful day. I don't know if you've picked up on this from watching that video. Now, parts of it I actually enjoyed making and I enjoyed sharing the history of it with you. But the canal towpath was very, very busy. And when I was doing pieces to camera there, I was not at all relaxed. Now, I've come here today, it's much quieter. Yes, there are some people enjoying the walk for sure. But because it is a lot less busier, I'm more relaxed, and hopefully that'll make my pieces to camera come across as well. So sometimes if you're coming out into the countryside, you do kind of have to pick your moment in terms of when is and where is the best place to be beneficial for your mental health. What we have behind me is one of the large storage pounds or ponds to keep the water in, which then is transferred into the canal to make sure that this canal, the Worcester to Birmingham, does not run dry. We'll go and have a closer look. So what you have to my right is the very famous Tardebigge reservoir. I thought it was just one of the intermittent ponds which are further on down, but yeah, this is the main one that feeds the canal. It's called the Tardebigge reservoir, and there was an engine pump just a bit further up, steam engine, which got the water into the canal. Just going to go over to some photographs now. I usually show them at the end. I'll just mix it up today. So I'm going to have a little interview to put some photographs I've taken on this beautiful canal here on this lovely sunny day in January. Hope you enjoy them. I've just come up to the churchyard at Hanbury. It's got a beautiful view. I'll just include a photograph and a video clip I've took of the view across towards Bromsgrove Church. Tardebigge Wharf and the entrance to the tunnel is just down below me, so we're going to have a look at that shortly. But while I was up here, just thought I'd tell you a little bit more about the history of this fascinating canal here in Worcestershire. Now I'll just give you a few stats, a few facts and figures. Some of them I'll put in along the bottom as well. I can't remember them all, so I'm afraid I happen to refer to my trusty notebook from research I made earlier. So if my eyes glance down, that's the reason why I'm just checking my notes. I remember some of it, but not all the details. So yeah, the Worcester to Birmingham Canal. Birmingham is to my right, Worcester is to my left. And in fact, earlier on I got the mileages a bit out. We're at this point, we're approximately halfway between Worcester and Birmingham. Birmingham's about 15 miles to the north, and Worcester is 15 miles to the south. In terms of length, the Tardebigge lock system, which as I said is 30 locks in total, and we've probably seen about 15 or 16 of them today as I've been walking up from the bit where I joined the canal from walking from the railway station. It covers a period of a length of 2.25 miles from here down towards the Stoke Basin, just south of the town of Bromsgrove. Now, the Worcester and Birmingham Canal actually opened in 1815 when the Diglis Lock Basin was completed in Worcester, and thus enabled this canal to then be joined with the River Severn. And we'll certainly be looking at Diglis Basin when we do the Severn-way later in the year. Top Lock, which we're going to have a look at shortly, has an amazing rise of 11 feet. I'm not sure if that is the highest single lock on the canal network, but it's certainly got to be up there, one of the highest ones. Now, it was built to replace a lift, mechanical lift, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, the section from the Old Wharf, which is the other side of Tardebigge Tunnel, opened on the 30th of March 1807, and obviously that section didn't have any locks in it at all. In fact, the canal owners were very concerned about the cost of opening up the section all the way down to Worcester, because of the sheer cost it actually cost them to put in, too many costs there, to get the canal connected up to Worcester and the River Severn. Yeah, so the Tardebigge Tunnel runs right through solid rock here, and it comes up to lock number 58. And originally a vertical lift was invented and installed by one John Woodhouse, and he in fact paid for it himself out of his own money, although the canal company provided the raw materials. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. It's fascinating, particularly if you're interested in anything to do with engineering at all. It was completed in 1808 and housed a covered shed and used a fixed counterweight of bricks, connected by a series of set of 8 parallel chains and pulleys. Lifting was performed by 2 men using a windlass. It used an incredible 64-ton wooden caisson. Now, caissons are strange structures. They're either made of metal or wood, and that's what the narrowboat goes into. There is a famous lock lift further up north. I'll put in the name. A lot of the canal videos, the canal YouTubers have featured it on their channels. It's all iron and steel and a completely mechanical thing where it lifts up there. But this particular operation was much more rudimentary with that. Wasn't sophisticated as that particular lift. It was sealed at each end by guillotine-type gates. You wouldn't want to get underneath those as you were entering them on your narrowboat and it's suddenly slamming down. It sounds a bit hair-raising, doesn't it? However, it was considered too fragile. The remainder of the canal was built with locks, and the lift was replaced just 7 years later in 1850. I presume they thought that as the narrowboat was going to go up and down, it was going to collapse, and they would have to, obviously destroy their reputation for reliability and cost the canal owners a lot of money. Now, the only remains of that lift, that mechanical lift, is the balancing pit, which is near the lockkeeper's cottage. Now, I just actually saw part of that as I was walking up here towards the church, and I'll do a little bit of a feature on that when I walk back down to the canal. The second from the top lock, number 57, and in actual fact there's quite a gap, probably a quarter-mile gap between 57 and the top lock 58, is where the Tardebigge engine house is. Now, it's private property, so it is difficult to film there, but I should be able to get a couple of photographs at the very least, just show you what the engine house looks like, because it's an amazing building. Don't get too excited, there's no steam engine in it now, of course. It has been moved and no idea what has happened to that, but it has now come under a heritage scheme for partial restoration, and all of the buildings around this part of the canal at Tardebigge have now been Grade 2 listed. Just to add a correction, earlier on I said it was Hambridge Church. It's actually Tardebigge's church on the hill here, but it's beautiful. I was going to go in, but unfortunately, because I've been walking along the towpath, my boots are incredibly muddy again, so I don't want to ruin the floor of the church, so I've not gone into the church on this occasion, so I do apologise for that. But yeah, it's a beautiful spot here on a beautiful day. It's cold, it's still only about 1 degree, but because the sun out, it feels a lot warmer than that, and it's very, very pleasant to be out on a day like today when we've had all those grey, miserable, misty, rainy days. But it's really, really nice. So I've got the entrance to Tardebigge Tunnel behind me. Now you're probably wondering that you haven't seen any narrowboats making their way across any of the locks today, and there's a reason for that. It's because lock number 57, the one before the top lock, which we're going to have a look at shortly, is currently closed for repair. So this section is currently out of use. There are a lot of sections are taken out of use during the winter months when the narrowboaters aren't moving around so much, and this is one just such situation on that. So I think it's like the gearing mechanism has broke on it, so it's awaiting repair, maybe some new bits and pieces and cogs to be done in the workshop to be fitted, and then the canal will be reopened again. So yeah, this is Tardebigge Tunnel. I've just taken a photograph, and it's not particularly long. I'll put in the stats below how long the tunnel is. As I say, it goes through solid rock. You can actually see the end of the tunnel on the other side. Yeah, so it's 530 metres long, so just over half a kilometre, so no wonder you can see the other end of the lock there. So this part here is at New Wharf, and I'll just do a couple of shots here. This is where the canal widens here, so it's quite a narrow canal. It's certainly not one you could use wide beams on this canal, but at this point obviously this is where the goods were loaded and unloaded after making their way through Tardebigge Tunnel. So behind me here is the remains of, or the only remains of Woodhouse's lifting mechanism, and of course the lock in front of me, number 58, replaced that just 7 years after it was built. Now number 58 as well is being cleaned out at the moment. I didn't want to film the gentleman from the Canals and Rivers Trust actually doing the work on it, but because there is a blockade, as they use in the railway terms. I'm not sure what the canal terms is, but when they take a section out to repair it, because they're doing number 57, lock 57's out of action, they're obviously taking advantage of this to clean number 58 as well. Yeah, that's lock number 58 behind me, the 11-foot tall lock at the end, or the start of the Tardebigge lock sequence. On that plaque I've just inserted now, which has got the mileages on it, it's also got a tribute to the canal historian, the Reverend Alan White. And the reason I mention that is if you wish to know more about the Tardebigge locks, I've only skimmed over the history of it today. There is an excellent book written by Reverend Alan White that'll give you much more information. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but I'll drop the details of that book in the comments below. Behind me is the engine house, which was used. There was a steam engine in there, and it pumped water from the Tardebigge reservoir, which we looked at previously, to get water into the canal here. Had an interesting life. Just been reading up, I didn't see that in my research. In the 1950s there was a racing driver, I think he was called Martin Home or Horn, I can't quite make out the print, I'll check and put that below. He owned a nightclub at the Gas Street Basin in Birmingham in the 1950s. He also opened a jazz club in the engine house here, and that went on to the 1990s. Apparently it was a very celebrated piece of nightlife hereabouts. Not quite sure what the access would be like, because there's no roads around here, so people would have had to walk from the village presumably to get here. But yeah, so it's now looks like it's sadly empty. I know it is a listed building, but I don't know what the current news is on in terms of restoration, because that would be brilliant to see that fully restored and giving a pictorial and historical insight as to what happened here all those years ago. Well, thank you very much for watching my channel today, West Country Wanderings. I hope you enjoyed the tour here and the exploration of the fantastic Tardebigge lock system, the biggest and longest in the United Kingdom. There'll be another canal video coming up on my channel not too soon away, and if you hit the subscribe and bell, then YouTube will tell you when that is. There'll also be other videos coming up on my channel which won't be canal related, but they will be related to the West Country, this part of the world. And when I say the West Country, if you're new to my channel, that includes the broader West Country. I do feature videos from Cornwall, Devon, Gloucestershire, Worcestershire and some other counties as well. Now, coming up very, very soon, each month I do a monthly vlog. The January one will be up shortly. I will have gone, or will have gone by the time you will see this, to a new county which I've not featured before. Not new, they haven't started making counties. No, it's a county I've not featured in the West Country area. In fact, it's the only county I've yet to visit. So we're going to a location there, and that'll be my monthly vlog. So I'll tell you all about that then. So if you hit the bell and subscribe to YouTube, and I'll tell you when that one uploads as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear from you. Please drop a comment below. Hope to see you again soon. Take care of yourselves. All the best. Cheers. Goodbye for now.